Please welcome
Morning.
them.
Morning. Hi, Fritz.
Good to see you. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Now, you know, we have in the audience here a lot of people who are maybe customers of yours. Actually, we had Filippo Passerini yesterday of Procter & Gamble. He admitted to being a customer of SAP. I'm not in a, I'm going to tell you a little secret kind of way. We have a lot of customers of the other guys. See, what are they called? Oracle?
Something
Is that
like
how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're here too. Mm-hmm. And by the way, and I've talked to a lot of people here. Some of them, you know, maybe not as cheerful customers of Oracle. Some of them happy customers of Oracle. Some of them happy customers of yours. Some of them thinking about whose customer they want to be. And I was not going to ask this question because it feels too much like a softball. But after talking with a few people last night, I think it's important to ask it because, you know, I set things up yesterday talking about how we might not talk about ERP or CRM or business intelligence because, you know, everything's about the cloud and so forth. So, but SAP for years has been known as an end-to-end ERP company. I mean, that's how these guys probably know you. Okay, so who is SAP now? How would you define today's SAP?
I believe SAP today is becoming the innovator of business software. That's how we'd like to see the transformation that we're trying to drive at SAP. And with that, I mean that, first of all, we focus our attention only on software. I think that's a very important strategic choice that we made. Because by having this focus, we can run faster in what we do better and partner up with other companies to ensure the customer gets the full solution. And secondly, it means that we go into all categories, all areas that have relevance for our opportunity to create value for our customers. Does that mean we're leaving ERP behind? No, I don't think so. I actually believe that in order to take advantage of some of these new technologies, you need a consistent core. And I argue that the more consistent and consolidated your core is, the more flexible you get on the edge. But clearly, we also want to be an edge company. I'd like to, you know, you talked about these innovators that come in after this. I'd love to see SAP as the biggest entrepreneurial company in the industry.
Okay, we're going to unpack some of what you just said through the course of this discussion, and we're going to I start a little bit early. We're going to try to leave as much time as we can for your questions as well. And I know you have them because we've talked, so don't be shy. But first, I want to ask you to give SAP a grade in a few different areas. So letter grade, okay. A through F, okay?
Pluses and minuses?
No.
Just, okay.
Don't hedge your bets.
Okay.
Be strong. Number one, excellence in enterprise software.
A.
Adapting to technology shifts, cloud, big data.
Combination of A and B's, depending on the area.
Cloud.
B.
Big data.
A.
Okay. Mobile.
A.
Technology innovation.
Coming from C, now B+, going to A, clear ambition.
Customer responsiveness.
A.
Okay. Maybe we'll see if they agree with that.
Otherwise, I'm here to respond, right?
All right. Let's start at the cloud, or software as a service, however we want to talk about it. It's a very competitive space. We've got companies like Salesforce.com, Workday, NetSuite, you know, starting a life as cloud companies. You guys and that other company that I mentioned making a big splash. Now, recently, your co-CEO, Bill McDermott, said that SAP is aiming to be #2 in the cloud and $2 billion by 2015. So I'm going to come back to that. But let's talk specifics. You've got Business by Design. You've got Business One for SMBs. You've recently bought SuccessFactors. You recently bought Ariba. And you've got your legacy on-premise business suite. Give us a roadmap for SAP in the cloud. What is all this? You know, it seems like a little piece here, a little piece there. How does it all come together? What's the SAP roadmap here?
Okay, so first of all, I believe that when choosing the word cloud for this, I think the IT industry told a lot. It's pretty cloudy. Huh? Everything that's not installed somewhere physically on your own premise, we call cloud, and with that it becomes a pretty cloudy conversation. I think the best way to describe our roadmap is to divide the market in two main categories. There are small companies who do not have the capacity, the skill, or the interest of invest to run their own IT. They like to run everything they do in the cloud. And for them, we have a suite. So they can, with one system, run everything that they need to do as a company in the cloud.
But by that, though, are we talking more of a hosted business suite?
No. I think the biggest mistake companies are doing, including some of our competitors, is to take a system that was not designed for the cloud, put it into the cloud and argue, now I have a cloud solution. That doesn't work for the very simple reason that if you don't design for the cloud, you don't get the total cost of ownership that you need in the cloud, you don't get the flexibility that you need in the cloud, you don't get the ease of use that you need in the cloud. And the real value of cloud is simplicity. You take something complicated, that's complicated because you allow the customer to customize it to any way you want. You put that in the cloud, you don't get simplicity. So when we designed Business by Design, it was with the intent of simplicity in mind. And you can literally, with 2 weeks of effort, run your entire company in the cloud if you're a small company. Now, why is that only small companies? Because big companies, today at least, have a tendency, and that's now the second category of the market. Big companies say, certain parts of what I do, I'm not going to share with my biggest competitor in an infrastructure that someone else is running for me. I want to control my destiny in my core processes, in the areas that make me competitive, and in order for me to have more focus and investment in that, I will use cloud for edge areas that are not defining my competitiveness. How you do travel and expense management in most companies will not define your competitiveness. Efficiency in sales is not so important. Pricing is. So I want pricing to be in my house, controlled by me, not the same price schemes as my competitors. And so they are going for edge, very narrow focused line of business solutions that can be outsourced with no loss of competitiveness, and you get a cost benefit. And that's where the biggest market is today. So a Salesforce, a Concur, and they all have these very narrow line of business focused items, and that's where most of the cloud money is going today.
So tell us what SAP has in each of these
perfect categories.
Discrete areas.
So for the small company who wants to run their entire business in the cloud, we have Business by Design. We have more than 1,100 customers very happy running their business in the cloud with Business by Design. For large companies, we've declared 4 categories, 4 lines of business where we want to be strong. It's 2 internal focused. One is HR, and with SuccessFactors as part of the SAP family, we are the largest provider of human resource management solutions in the cloud today, more than 17 million users of SuccessFactors. The second one is money. So people is the HR, money, a on-demand financial system that is being brought to market as we speak. And then 2 external categories, my customers, so the interaction with salespeople and customers, and my suppliers, the interaction with the procurement side, of course, through the acquisition of Ariba. So 2 of the 4 categories acquired, the people dimension and the procurement dimension, and 2 of them innovated by SAP.
Now, on 2 of them, financials on demand and sales on demand, those aren't out yet, though.
They are out as we speak.
Now, right
they
now.
are out right now.
Are you making news right now?
We have not been splashing the latest announcement of these products because we want customers to talk about it, not our marketing department to talk about it. But I can tell you, you should go and look at these products. They are some of the most beautiful products, not just that we've ever created from SAP, but I would argue that's in the market today. A very new dimension to business software.
Okay, now, you mentioned these as maybe not being, core strategic, the kind of apps that people might want to keep in-house. But it's awfully hard to predict where
Yes.
if you ask 2 or 3 years ago, people might have said they don't want those things in the
Yes.
cloud either.
Yes.
So what's next? And when do you see ERP from companies like these putting that in the cloud?
There is no
what's
doubt.
your plan?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that what used to be all on-premise is moving more and more out in the cloud. And it starts on the edges, and we've defined these 4 edges for us. And of course, our benefit is that we integrate them out of the box with the on-premise software customers already run. So if you run the people dimension in the cloud from SAP, then it automatically integrates to the on-premise software you have. So you can plan your skill development and link it to the deployment of skills in your ERP system, for instance. We see that it's going to be company dependent, which functions you choose to kind of outsource to the cloud and which you want to control. And I think the best example is an insurance company. The claims management process in insurance, some companies say, listen, claims is a high volume process that I need to have as cheap as possible because that's where a lot of my costs go. And so they outsource the entire process to a call center, and then they take care of the interaction with the customer. In fact, they take care of the interaction with many insurance companies' customers, and that's very cheap. And other companies in insurance say, no, claims is the moment of truth with my customer. If I treat the customer that now had a car accident with the utmost respect and attention, that's how I create the most loyal customer for life for my insurance company. So I will never outsource that. I'll have the best and brightest people and the best possible technology, making sure that the customer can tell on the mobile device, where am I, the GPS information, what happened to my car, and you can have a perfect service delivery at that moment in time, that moment of truth when the customer is really in a painful situation. Those are 2 strategies. So my hypothesis is we will have to be able to provide basically all functions that we have in a cloud version, not just moved to the cloud, but designed for the cloud, and an on-premise version so the customer can choose the combination of on-premise and cloud that the customer needs, which is why I think that this market will consolidate, because right now you have these narrow, single-minded companies out there who only do one thing, and then you have to manage the complexity of all these different solutions over time, and that's impossible.
You mentioned that Business by Design has 1,000 customers. I think that was the number at the end of last year.
Yes.
And I mentioned earlier that Bill said $2 billion in the cloud by 2015.
Yes.
So it strikes me that that's a big number to reach in now 2 years, a little over 2 years, 2.5 years maybe. I mean, I'm saying January 1, 2015. Maybe he meant September 2015. I don't know, but how do you get there? Because unless the big things go there, then I don't see how you get to $2 billion.
Well, so already now we are, with the inclusion of SuccessFactors, we are a very strong player. I gave ourselves a B when you asked. And the reason for that is that I truly believe that cloud is a different business model. And the traditional players like SAP took a long time to figure out that this is different. It's all about the simplicity, but we also believe it's all about the consistency. And it took us so long, we actually had to go out and acquire a critical mass SuccessFactors with a very strong business leader, Lars Dalgaard, who grew up in the cloud, and give him the responsibility for the cloud. Otherwise, we don't have the pace you need in the cloud, and we don't understand the business model.
Now you gave yourself a B in the cloud.
Yes.
Lars said the baby was ugly.
Yes.
He might have given you a D. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's not here. It's maybe not fair, but I'm just, you know.
But it's fair, and probably we should grade ourselves by the month, because with Lars's DNA, he comes in with the ambition that we release cloud versions every month, like Facebook releases every Thursday. And that's a speed of innovation that we traditionally have not been used to, because in on-premise, there's much more complexity, because the customer can have any combination of hardwares and operating systems and databases. This complexity is gone in the cloud, so we can be that fast. And in the last 4 months, after Lars took over the cloud team of SAP, not only has he evolved his own line of business solutions for HR, but he's actually released these 2 new products, the financials and sales on demand, which I literally believe are some of the most beautiful business software products out there in the market today. All of that in just 4 months. So it probably was a D. Now we're probably at a B. And when we bring these to market, I'd like to hear from the audience, the customers, what they think. I think some of them will give us an A for these new products.
Okay. But you said something else that I had written a note on, which is that, you know, Amazon has been around for a long time. Salesforce.com, I can't remember how many years they've been in existence. NetSuite, 13 years. Yes. You guys are just getting the religion right now, and, you know, to be fair, moving pretty fast. But, you know, how are you changing the culture of SAP to be able to pounce on these opportunities? I mean, this world is changing so fast.
Basically, this is the fundamental of the innovator's dilemma. And we're very keen on understanding the dilemma of being a successful market-leading company and yet challenge all assumptions. How do you do that? It is one of the hardest things to do as a company. In the cloud, the beauty is that it's such a different business model. That's also the challenge. And the way we deal with that is to have a team. We have 4,000 people dedicated to the cloud under Lars Dalgaard's leadership, which is a leader who grew up in the cloud. With that, and you combine that with our installed base, 200,000 companies who run SAP, we believe we can create an acceleration curve that is nothing you've seen ever in this industry. Most companies in the cloud are not even profitable today, because the upfront investment is huge, and the only way to get profitable is through scale. Well, if we can just inspire our installed base to take one of our 4 line of business products, we'll be outpacing everyone in the industry. We're already right now growing at 3-digit growth rate, 3-digit percentage growth rates. That's how fast we are. So I think that's how we are solving. It's kind of a company in the company that get the benefit of SAP, but define new rules for the speed you need in the cloud.
I want to ask you about Oracle. I'd like to hear you quickly summarize, and I think you've kind of been doing it here without mentioning their name, but stack up what you've got in the cloud versus what they do. And I want you also to address something that the Hawaiian Island owning CEO said SAP would have nothing in the cloud till 2020. What did he mean by that? And just kind of give where you think you have an advantage.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe it's my parents who taught me never to lie. And maybe, I don't know, I think that's important. The fact of the matter is that you compare the 2 companies. Oracle has Fusion, we have ByDesign. These were both projects that took far too long because the companies didn't originally understand the cloud. And I think Fusion has around 100 customers, and we have 1,100. So 10 times more customers on the suite approach to this. In the line of business, we have now 4 categories. I don't think they have 4 categories. I think they bought one of them recently in sales. And the benefit that we have is that we integrate these 4 categories with the business software already installed at customers. So we are not forcing anyone to a disruptive upgrade, which, by the way, I think is one of the biggest problems in the industry in general. that software companies have this idea of imposing disruptive upgrades of software to customers. That is a waste that we need to eliminate.
I have so many more questions on this, but we need to move to our next topic, which I know is near and dear to your heart, and that's HANA. This is, for SAP, one of the most significant developments and efforts at the company. We hear about it constantly. So I'll start big again. What is the roadmap for HANA?
Yeah, so maybe before talking about the future roadmap, a little history. Why HANA and what are we trying to achieve?
This is kind of like a skunk's work, back in Germany, bunch of students working with Hasso, kind of. That's how I've read it. Is that?
I think it's important to understand. You basically, it's part of our desire to become the most innovative business software company in the world. One way of doing that is, besides leaving a team independent to work on their speed like the cloud, the other way is to challenge assumptions. And so we sat down and said, what is the biggest assumption we're making around software that have the biggest implications for the complexity of software? And we came to the conclusion that the biggest assumption we're all making since the beginning of software for business is that data is stored on a disk. And a disk is a very slow type of hardware. And because it's so slow, all systems that are out there today are created with complexity to compensate for the lack of speed on a disk. For instance, we have a separation between transactional systems and analytical systems. Why? Is it because customers absolutely want two different systems? No, it's because the analytical systems cannot get the speed of response unless you already prefabricate all answers to any anticipated question, because you can't read the raw data again from disk if you have just a reasonable size of data. It takes too long. And so with that, you have this complexity. First of all, you have two categories that have to interact and synchronize data. And secondly, alone the analytical systems are massively complicated with the same information stored hundreds of times in anticipated answers to questions. That's how systems are created. So we asked the engineers, the skunk work engineers, to say, what would happen if you could eliminate this limiting speed problem in the disk? What if you could store all data of any size company in main memory, which is physically at least 10,000 times faster to read and write to than disk? What if that was possible? Not some of the data, because if you do some of the data, you still have the complexity around moving data between disk and memory, which is how systems are created today. We said, what if you could store all data? And of course, the engineers came back and said, whoa, main memory is too expensive, it's not big enough. And so what do you have to do? You have to find ways to compress the data. You have to find ways to eliminate complexities. And they work now for 3 years. It started as unstructured data search at high speed. And today, we can read 500 billion records in a couple of seconds. And there is not many companies who need 500 billion records present in main memory all the time today. I would claim that with a typical machine today, a hardware with no moving parts and lots of main memory, a 1 terabyte main memory system, it's about my size, will outcompete a traditional disk-based system that would be the size of this stage and cost 10 times more. We have a price-performance improvement breakthrough that is the biggest I've ever seen in my entire career in industry. That's why HANA is significant. And it's wrong just to say it's in memory computing. It's a special way of storing and retrieving data so that you get a compression of data up to a factor 100, which means a 100 terabyte system can be all live in 1 terabyte main memory.
I think probably everybody can appreciate the increase in speed that comes along with something like this. But to make such a generational change, an architectural change to the way the people here run their business, I'm just guessing it probably will take some kind of transformational change, not just faster. And by the way, the other guys make appliances that go faster too. They might be a different architecture,
Yes.
generally speaking. But so what is the transformational change?
It's two things. First of all, it is a possible massive simplification of landscapes. And I am a true believer that simplification is one of the biggest problems that need to be solved in IT. If you imagine a world where data is stored directly in main memory and read again in main memory, and you basically only store transactional information, no aggregates. In a general ledger alone, in a financial system, there's 22 aggregates. Well, in this world, you only have one, the transactions. And you can read all transactions through, billions of records in sub-seconds, and get any answer to any question you might have. Then what happens is you have a massive simplification. I would say you take away data, at least 10, maybe 100 times worth of data that has been stored in sub-aggregates in your companies. And most importantly, the big simplification is the transactional systems and the analytical systems will finally come together again. That's one thing. And the second thing is you can solve problems you could never solve before. You know, we're in areas that you haven't even thought of before. Like, you know, one of the most inspiring ones is in healthcare. You can do a DNA analysis today in cancer treatment where you compare the healthy the healthy cell with the cancer cell in a patient. You find the exact mutation. Then you scan through unstructured scanning which medical treatment will have the right impact on exactly this mutation. That's possible today. In a traditional disk-based system, this takes 2 days and costs $100,000 per patient. We moved that to HANA, and now we can do it in 1 minute at $4,000 per patient. That is a significant breakthrough. We can solve, you know, optimization of transportation, reading Twitter sentiment analysis so you understand customer behavior and can respond faster. This end-to-end chain of the mobile devices in the hands of billions of people out there that you can understand how they react to what you do and bring that back into a consistent flow of information to your backend where you still need your ERP to replan so that you can deliver on the new expectations in the market. That's the breakthrough.
In 2011, you had done $202 million in revenue on a target. It may not sound like a lot, but on a target of $127 million for HANA. And there was said to be a projected $1.8 billion in the pipeline. I'll come back to that in a second, but most of the examples that we've heard so far are on the analytics side.
Yes.
And the transformational stuff that you're talking about is a little more on the transactional side. Do you have some customers, maybe you can't talk about them specifically, but maybe generally, that are doing that, what you just described, and can you tell us more about them and what benefits they're achieving?
Yes. I mean, we actually said that roadmap already 2.5 years ago. We said we'll start in analytics and accelerate analytics. We now run business warehouses on HANA that are very high speed at very low cost. And then we will go into transactional systems. Our Business One system already runs in HANA, so the unique design of HANA was that it also speaks SQL, which means it can act just like a normal database. What you get with that is, of course, a big jump in performance and price performance in particular. But then you optimize certain programs to take full advantage of a column store in memory database. Then you get these examples where customers have not just 100 times faster, but 100,000 times faster performance. And then you can solve problems you never could solve before. We're right now in the phase of testing HANA to run the transactional systems. And then, of course, the third phase is that we finally merge the analytical world and the transactional world. Because in a world that is getting increasingly unpredictable, you can't have these two worlds separated, where you do a budget, an annual budget, and then revisit and report what happened last quarter. You have to get strategy and execution and prediction into one system. and empower your people in the front line with this information so they make better decisions every day. That's the vision we have. We are very far. As I said, small systems run today on HANA. I predict that we can have our business suite run on HANA sometime next year. And I would argue, without disruption to the customer. Very, very important design criteria for the engineers. You don't need another big upgrade. We can pull it in small iterative steps rather than a big upgrade.
So your applications running in memory by next year?
There will be core applications, transactional applications running main memory next year. And it's the same version that you would buy today. No upgrade. It's not a new thing. What you have with that, you suddenly have an ERP, coming back to where we started. An ERP running in main memory with mobile front end integrated to cloud offerings in 4 categories. That is the most modern ERP in the market.
And interestingly enough, the #1 non-Oracle app running on Oracle database is SAP. So is there a roadmap that says Oracle database not needed anymore?
I think that for the sake of innovation, it's very important that we stay open. So we will continue to offer our customers choice, which also means they can run all our applications on an Oracle database. And may the best database win kind of approach. I think it's wrong when you go into these integrated stack conversations. I've never heard a customer say, Jim, I want a stack. What they want is a set of services and software and hardware that is designed to work together. But most customers I meet also want choice. Because without the choice, you get into the ugly price conversations, because there is no choice. So we will stay 100% open to any database, any leading database out there. We will stay 100% open to various types of hardware. We will, of course, for HANA, specify the hardware in a very detailed manner so we know the software is optimized for the hardware. And we have already 8 partners who's willing to deliver on that specification today.
Okay, but choice is nice. That sounds really good. But back when this whole HANA thing started, Mr. Ellison called this whole move wacky. And recently, you quoted some famous physicist, I don't know who, saying the Stone Age ended not because we ran out of stone.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're kind of saying, yeah, I understand you want these guys to hear that the choice will still be there. But there is an aim to get out of this, dependency on Oracle database, yeah?
There is no doubt that the reason that you can argue it's wacky is that we don't have performance improvements of factor 2 or 3. In my 22 years in the industry, if someone had come up with a database that's 2 times faster, that would have been a significant, interesting story. When we go out there and claim that it's 10,000 times faster or 100,000 times faster, it's wacky. But it's true. That's what my parents told me to tell, because our customers tell us that that's the performance they get. And I think they are truthful when they say that. So, I do believe that you will see a trend that data will move off disk and into main memory. There will be variations of this, and they will all tell you it's in memory computing. The key that I'm saying, that I'm arguing is, there's a huge difference between a hybrid system where data needs to be managed between various types of technology. That is like a hybrid car. It has at least 2 of everything and needs to be managed really carefully. Versus the simplification you potentially can get when you only store transactions in main memory and nothing else. If you have anything on disk, it's for a backup. So all current data is always in main memory at the same time. This is a transformational new idea. It'll change hardware infrastructures. You'll get price performance improvements beyond the 200s, maybe up to 1,000 per dollar invested. That's the performance you get out of these systems. It's a new generation of servers. So you will see new players in hardware, and applications will be built more and more for the assumption that all data is in main memory in a column store. And instead of having a separation between a database and an application, these two layers come extremely close to each other so that you can take full advantage of the speed and create applications like the DNA analysis that you could never have done before. So I'm not just saying that the traditional database will go away. We have 30,000 business warehouses out there who can run on HANA today, and we see a tremendous replacement of traditional disk-based systems out and HANA in, and a jump in performance. I am saying that in 5 years from now, most data is stored in main memory directly. It's read from the same main memory, and there's a massive simplification happening in landscapes because of this. And the separation between applications and databases will be more and more blurry. In that world, we have an advantage because we have the applications both on-premise and in the cloud with the front end on a mobile device, and we have invented the pure in-memory database called HANA.
I want to do a time check. I'm just going to steal a peek at your watch. I'm not David Blaine. I'm not going to steal it from you there. Okay, good. So, you know what? I had a few more questions, but I want to make sure we leave some time for Q&A from the audience here. So, if we can, we have our mic runners out here. Chris over there, Rob over there. I know there are some questions. Oh, we already have one. Okay.
Hey, how are you? Do you see HANA working in the cloud?
Oh, absolutely. I will say that in 5 years' time, you'll hardly see cloud-based applications not built for in-memory consumption. And of course, we are bringing HANA into the cloud. One great example is Lars Dalgaard with SuccessFactors. He took 3 of his most complex products and put HANA underneath instead of a traditional database in the cloud. And in average, it's 1,000 times faster. Which for those applications, which are, for instance, hierarchies of access rights in HR, change hours of night jobs to seconds online real time. So a pretty important change. And in the cloud, it's much easier because we control the infrastructure.
Mike has a question up here.
By the way, the financials on demand that we just released runs in main memory.
I'm an existing SAP customer.
Thank you.
I've come to expect a pretty darn good integration in the ERP, the ECC product. We're now a BPC, a business planning and consolidation and business objects customer, and are running into difficulties that are there because of integration challenges between the SAP products. So, I see the roadmap, which looks great, and our experience to date has been, we hit a bump in a road and we're not able to achieve our objective because there's a bug in the integration. So we have to wait, some months in order to get performance issues, an 8-minute problem fixed. So all software has bugs. That's not the issue. The issue is as you innovate around the edges and acquire more products, what's the strategy within SAP to put tremendous focus, I think, that's needed on integrating products that were not designed to be integrated from the ground up?
Yeah, it's a very, very important point. In many ways, we're kind of reinventing SAP based on 3 very important principles that created SAP in the first place. Real-timeness with HANA, it's redefined at a whole new level. Integration, which was always our strength in the market, but we had the strength by having everything in one system. And today's world is not like that. You want to connect to other companies that have other systems as well. And thirdly, of course, the closeness to our customers in terms of understanding what they need and innovating on their agenda. So this is a very, very important point. And I think you also see the disadvantage of the acquired portfolio. Business Objects is a good example. Leading analytical company bought by SAP 5 years ago. It took us 2.5 years to get a reasonable level of integration between that product and SAP. It proves one of my big points, that in the core, you shouldn't have too many acquisitions, because if systems are not designed to operate together, there's a lot of overhead in making that happen, and you're experiencing some of that today. Which is why in our core, we never made big acquisitions. We always did it on the edges. Analytics was one example that sits next to it. And with the efforts we're doing now, the roadmap is to bring these two worlds not just closer together, but into one. So my commitment to you is, I would say, with the technology we have today, I know we can help you because I've had customers in the same discussion. And if you're willing to entertain the conversation around HANA, I think we can even give you a quantum leap in performance, which you haven't seen before, with today's technology. The roadmap we have ahead is a very solid architectural blueprint for everything we do, including what we acquire. It's kind of thinking of Legos. You know, I'm from Denmark, so I play with Legos. Not every day, but... And every Lego piece can have any design it wants inside, but the surface on top and below always has a certain architecture, which makes it fit to other pieces, no matter what's in the middle. This is the blueprint that we've created. We call this Network Solutions Blueprint, which the idea is that it's many solutions that are networked, but they're designed to be able to interact with each other, have similar user experience patterns, manage master data in similar ways, and give you the real-timeness of the integrated systems of the past, just no longer in one big system. That's the path we're doing. We still have areas of hiccups, like you said, but I would claim we're the most consistent portfolio in the industry today.
The question over here.
Hi, I'm Tom Brez with Sparrow Health in Lansing, Michigan. We're a Lawson customer, and my perception may be outdated, but I've always thought that changing ERP systems is one of the things you'd never want to do, especially if you're a medium-sized business. Is my perception outdated? Is that more doable today? And if it is, you know, tell me how and why.
The big jump in simplifying that problem has been the creation of so-called best practices or templates, where a traditional system implementation, an ERP implementation in the past, and believe me, I've been in many of those. I started my career as a consultant, and some of them very painful. Was what would you like to have? We try and specify it all, and then we deliver on that. And our problem was always we could do most things, so we would never say no. And that makes the project bigger. And I think you should say no. I think you should challenge the difference between old habits and best practices and get rid of some of your old habits when you do the implementation. So the new approach we call rapid deployment solution, which is basically to take an ERP system. Actually, we have a pre-configured system called All-in-One, which has industry flavors. You were in healthcare. We have an industry version of that where the conversation totally changes. We'll not come and ask you what you will like. We'll come and present to you what we believe are best practices in your industry. And you pick and choose the best practices you like, and then we identify the areas where you need something special because you're a special company. And that's where we put our attention. I would say no more than 10% special, and don't modify the system. If you have this approach, we can do an entire ERP implementation of a mid-sized company in your industry in 4 to 6 months, wall to wall.
The question back here, I think, is that the amount of time? Well, I'm going to look at your watch again, just because I think we have time for maybe one more here.
My company, Spirit Aerosystems, we're an end-to-end ERP house, SAP. We've got every module. Last year, we purchased the Bob J in HANA. We're doing 4 pilots.
Thank you.
My question is, you're welcome. You talked a little bit about simplification. I've had 2 U.S. SAP executives, won't mention who they are, saying that to figure out the SAP pricing scheme, you need a German PhD. My question is, what are you doing to try to simplify the pricing? It's very complicated. We need, what our business is looking for is better value, right? Deliver more to our business partners internally at less costs. We haven't figured out the less cost. Your maintenance has been rising in terms of percentage. What are you doing to help us on the price side and simplifying things?
So I think there are two questions in the same one. How do we make the total cost of running systems lower? And the best way to explain that is an anecdote from a customer interaction in Germany. I don't know if he was a PhD, but he basically invited me to the company, a very large company running SAP since 15 years. He said, "Welcome, Mr. Snabe, to our company. We spend too much on SAP." I said, "Thank you very much for the invite. I'm really thrilled to be here." Then I asked, "How much do you spend?" And bear with me, it's a very, very large global company. And he said, "We spend 50 million a year on maintenance, most of it, new licenses once in a while, and some services." I said, "That's a lot. How much of your company runs SAP?" 70%, he says. "And you know what? I would make it 80% if you would go down from 50 million to 40 million in your invoices every year." And then I asked the last question, which was, "What's your total IT spend?" 1 billion. So here I am. I'm 5% of his total spend. I'm running 70% of his business. And then I asked him the following question, which I like to ask you as well. Would you allow me to look at your 1 billion and help me reduce that by 20% instead of reducing the 50 million by 20%? And if I was able to reduce the 1 billion by 20%, would you spend more with me in innovation? Of course, he said. And 6 months later, he was in Waldorf, our headquarters, looking at in-memory computing and mobile and so on. And we will save him 200 million a year. Why? Because he had 8 systems from SAP. He only needs 3, 1 per region. He had 400 other apps that had been growing over the years in chaotic ways, where we could replace half of them immediately. So we started a consolidation of the core process that will save him 150 million a year. And with that, we freed up money for innovation to drive more value for the business. That's the kind of service approach we'd like to take with you. And look into your total cost, not just the SAP part, because typically, in Gartner analysis even, we have 5% of the total spend. And our strategy, if you look at our strategy, why are we not in hardware? Why are we not a big-time services company? Because we want to increase the value of the software and reduce the spend in infrastructure and in services by rapid deployment solutions, in services, these best practices, by reduction of infrastructure costs through simplification like with HANA or with cloud, and with that, potentially play a bigger role in delivering more value to your business. And then you're, of course, right. We need to simplify the price list. I'd like to take the solutions approach. Basically, say, here's an industry solution. It solves these 20 problems, and each problem has a price. Never mind what pieces went in to solve those problems. And that's the approach we'll take to simplify. Today you buy SAP as you would buy spare parts for a car. We'd like to sell you the pre-assembled car. And we have the pre-assembly done in the services. We now need to put the price tag accordingly. And with that, hopefully, you can reduce your total spend and I can be a bigger share of your value creation. Is that fair?
We are out of time. We haven't had a time to dive into big data, into mobile. You guys bought Sybase, and you're doing a lot of things in mobile. And so you're going to have to come back so we can talk more. And we didn't even touch on the ongoing forever litigation with Oracle, where you've admitted and given them money, admitted guilt, given them all the money that is required of you, and they want to sue you more. So I was going to have a little fun with that, but we're out of time. Like how I slipped that in there anyway?
Yeah, it was very nice, very nice. Well, if I had the choice, I would always go for the best engineers for software development versus the best lawyers in the industry. So, yeah,
all right, nice. We always love talking to Jim. He can go high-level business stuff and dive into the technology. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and just for the record, I do not have an island. I don't expect to have one, but if we're successful with our customers, maybe our customers get an island one day. Thank you very much.